One. Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, Marcus. Thank you for joining me today. I know you have a lot on your schedule and you're busy, but I appreciate you for taking some time today.
Oh, absolutely, Chinadum. When you reached out, I was thinking like, what's he got going on, and I read and saw the details, and how could I not, kind of step in and share some knowledge. So I appreciate you for reaching out.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Um, we're gonna start off with a little bit of an icebreaker. um, what are your strengths and weaknesses?
So first and foremost, I'll just probably
Oh,
introduce myself, if that's okay.
yes, sir. That's my
Uh,
bad.
Nah, you're good. My name is Marcus Beard. I operate in the Alabama Huntsville region, specifically as the CO for NASA. So CEO is the contracting officer, and we essentially facilitate um, warrants or binding contracts with companies and entities that are attempting to give us some sort of contractual agreement. And through that is a myriad of things that we do, whether it's a small business or it's a high tech company. I am, as the CEO, the only person that can execute, modify, or terminate a contract. So I currently reside at the Marshalls Space Center. So that is the location that I work in. And we've had the pleasure of having Chinadun work in our space. I haven't directly worked with him yet, but I've heard good things. So glad to be here.
Thank you, sir. I'm glad they're all good things that you heard. I hope so, at least.
100%, 100%.
Um, One thing I do want to ask you, because I personally, I'm in school as well as working this internship. When I when I signed up, I didn't know this was gonna be a full-time internship. I didn't know I was gonna be working 40 hours. So it kind of caught me off guard when it all started, and I had to adjust. I had to make that adjustment with how to balance my work life, how to manage my personal life as well as my school life.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, I want to ask you, how do you manage your work life balance?
That's a good question. And to start off, this is a very intentional role that I play. It's we are dealing with um hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on these contractual agreements. So you can see the bearings of those situations and what they would have on me mentally, physically, in these conversations and agreements and things. I try to focus on work 100% while I'm there. And then when I go home and I'm with the kiddos, I try to obviously, like, hey, I'm still a CO for NASA, but hey, let me let go of that right now and focus on maybe it's building some Legos, maybe it's cooking dinner. Right. I also try to go to the gym. So making sure that there's a piece of me everywhere. Like there's some family time that I'm spending, investing in my kiddos and my beautiful wife, obviously staying attentive to my role as a CEO, and then making sure there's some personal habits that I'm investing in, whether it's hygiene or making sure I'm staying in the gym and fit. Or maybe it's just going down to the lake to fish, right? Just making sure that I delineate my time and I do it wisely. I had a video that I watched before, and and showed like different ways how you can fit all these rocks in one bowl. And I learned that tiny rocks matter. And all the rocks weren't fitting in the bowl, but once you put the big rocks in, you were able to essentially fill everything else around it. So making sure family is important. That's one of those big rocks.
Mm,
Um, my job is important. That's one of those big rocks. Um, and
mm.
then anything else, any small thing, any minute thing that you don't want to just dust off can also still be in that bowl, which represents your life. So good question to start us off though, Chin. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. And I know you mentioned keeping work at work. Has there ever been an instance where you've been at home and you've had to be called in on a contract, or maybe a company that you were meeting with and having relations with and you guys were communicating with, maybe they called you in on a serious issue? Has that ever been a problem when you were at home, you're not at work? Have they ever have to call you in off of hours, and how do you deal with that? How do you set those boundaries?
So I think first and foremost, the best part about me and my role is that I have a team, right? I have a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful team of contract specialists that allow me to navigate, right? So if this is something that's pertinent that I need to attend to at the moment, then I'm like, hey, let's address this. If it's something that I think that my contract specialists are more than capable of tackling, I will delineate that for them and say, like, hey, this is something that I think you can handle right now. It doesn't even matter if I have the time. It's always about the progression of the people around me. And I always try to allow others to grow and flourish while I'm in that managerial role. So to answer your question, of course, I've got calls outside of the work hours. The stipulations behind some of these contractual agreements are sometimes time based, right? You got to think about making sure that we get some of this R&D started, right? The development, the research and development process is super keen, and it's important that we get started right away. So the
Right.
second that these contracts are agreed to, yeah, I might get a call at 8 p.m. And that's something that they're aware of as well. So if there's somebody currently on site, I'll say, like, hey, is this something that you're able to do? I'm giving them oversight. So it's definitely something intriguing to navigate. I know the wife is always like, who's calling now? But
Right.
that's definitely something that I've learned to navigate.
Okay. Thank you. Um, the next question, the next question also is a question that it's a personal question for me that I really want to know. I've been struggling finding mentorship. It's easy to find people that you look up to and that you want to emulate and imitate, but it's harder to ask or like know if it's okay to ask them to be your mentor or for guidance. Like, some people are busy, you don't want to cut in on them, but essentially, who do you look to for guidance and mentorship, and how did you gain that mentorship and guidance? Like, what are the steps you took to get there?
100%. I tell people all the time, a mentor mentee relationship is it's first off pivotal in anybody's life. You should have that. Second, it's something that both people should 100% be investing into, right? I mean, the expectations for that mentor are probably higher than the mentee, but it's incredibly important that the mentee also invests in that relationship, because then they're the person that gains the most out of it.
Mhm.
So, Professor Hargrove. I was just a sophomore in school. We had this marketing class, and you would be surprised with my position right now, but I was a marketing major. And as a marketing student, you're like, hey, some of these classes are easy, but his marketing 3000 class was bothering me, right? I was like, what is going on? The
Mm-hmm.
first test kind of blew me away. I went to his office hours as students usually don't do, right? You know, you gotta think about it, man. These big lecture halls, 200-300 students, they're still not seeing a lot of students in their office hours, right? They're like,
Right.
hey, come to my office hours if you need some extra time to chat, brush some things up. Just come to my office hours. So I was like, hey, let me lean into that advice. So I went to his office hours, and then I found myself going every week. And then I also found my grades increasing, right? I found that those weekly submissions were getting better. I found that the second test went from a 70% to an 85%. And I'm like, hey, like, this guy isn't half bad. So we built up in that semester what I would describe as a authentic, organic mentee mentor relationship with my professor. And it stemmed after that. After I passed this class with an A, I will say, we continued to chat. We stayed in discourse. After I graduated, he checked in. He was surprised that I wasn't working Wall Street or anything like that as a marketing consultant or anything like that. And I told him, I was like, hey, like this is something that I saw that I was really intrigued in. And that's something that I pursued, obviously being a contract officer. And so yeah, we just stay in contact. Like it's he learns from me, and I 100% learn from him. It's a very, very organic relationship that I again say all the time that people should be investing in, right? You should always have a mentor. And that also bridges you the opportunity to mentor somebody else because you had that experience. So yeah.
Right. Right. So do you guys still, you said you're still in active communication. You still get,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, we check in ever so often. How are you doing? He's recently retired. So he has a lot of time on his hands. Let's just say that.
Um, Now you're in a leadership role yourself
Mm-hmm.
at NASA. I personally know there are a lot of different leadership roles and they look a little bit different. Um,
Yep.
there's correct me if I'm wrong. I believe they're called branch chiefs. There's branch chiefs that reside over the general CO in the office and
Mm-hmm.
other ones, and then under the CO there's the contract specialist. You said,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So leadership looks different for each of those categories. You being in the position that you're in, how do you keep your team motivated? Even though, like, I know your higher ups are breathing down your back and telling you to that this deadline needs, because it's the government contract world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like stuff needs to move at a certain time, or else a lot of stuff is going to be messed up. How do you keep your team motivated without getting them, well, stress comes with the job, but without getting them too overstressed? How do you keep your team motivated to do the work?
100%. So something that I am profoundly proud of is the merit on me having that role, right? I had the team that I lead a team, it's about 4 to 5 contract specialists, right? And they kind of reside under me. A couple of their responsibilities can vary, right? Somebody one day might be handling a breach of contract. Another person might be the core contact or liaison for the contract that we're trying to tie down. Another might be researching regulations. Like I said, we're always constantly looking for innovation through research and development and working with different tech companies and small businesses and whatnot. So we might
And
not be privy.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I heard you working with small businesses and other companies. Is that a little where the marketing comes in? Is that a little of that aspect?
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
the procurement of those small businesses. So we have an allotment of small businesses that have the opportunity to work in tandem with us. There's a specific amount of money, an allocation of money that we um are allowed to give in contractual agreements to these small businesses or entities, and then they have the power to fulfill our needs. Whatever that is contingent on whatever they do, obviously. Again, some of them work in the tech field, some of them work in different spheres, but it's solely on them for them to submit those contractual applications, and then we just get the ball rolling.
Okay. I'm sorry to cut you off about your were you still saying something how to keep your team motivated?
Yeah, so I previously had the role as a contract specialist. And because of that, I fully understand the demand. I fully understand what it takes to be a quality contract specialist. And with that understanding, I completely can can empathize with what they're going through and then help them continue to excel. So if that's motivation, I can give them personal experiences and speak to things that I did to help me excel, and then obviously get promoted into that CO role that I have right now. So that's I think the biggest thing, and then just the reminder that we hired them because we believed in them. So hey, this job isn't about hiring the best employee, it's about hiring the best potential for the most outstanding employee. So we understand that hey, like when we bring them on, they might not be the best contract specialist in the world, but by the time they hit 5 months, 8 months, 12 months, they're going to be talking about, hey, like, how do I step into that next role? How do I become a CEO? So that's one thing that I kind of just preach to my team. It's always thinking about how to get better and then make the people around you better.
Right. Um, Thank you for that. I don't have any other questions for you, Marcus. I appreciate you for taking out the time. Um, I know you're busy, but I look forward to working with you. I hopefully we'll be in the same part of the office in a couple weeks or maybe my next rotation. And if you're open to it, I'm gonna reach out to you about like who I should contact with the mentorship. But I thank you for taking this meeting. I did have actually one more question that I remembered. You said something about you were a contract specialist at first. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember the CO that resided over you? Also, what impact did they have on you wanting to continue your venture at NASA?
Yeah, of course. Of course I remember that. So it was actually Selena Rona, right? And she, like me, was previously a contract specialist. So like her whole perspective on growth and matriculation in within NASA is something that I preach every day. Like it's all about growth. I mean, every year we're looking to hire, so why not every year look to promote? And that was her mantra.
Okay.
Always keep growing. Um, and that's something that I've taken to heart. I think my time as a contract specialist proved very difficult for me. It was something new. Like I said, I was a marketing major. This is something that I took on a whim. I was like, can I do this? Can I negotiate contracts? Can I litigate conversations? What is the world of procurement of um, multi-million dollar contractual agreements with NASA? Those were questions that were being asked. Man, if you would have asked me those questions as a junior or a senior in college, I would have told you I had no idea. And so with her, she kind of took me under her wing and allowed me to just grow and just wooed me, just wooed me, just wooed me, and allowed me to blossom into who I am now. So I always reach out and tell her like, hey, I appreciated all the investments. Because now it's flourishing. So good question, though.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Marcus. That is the last question. Thank you for your time,
100%.
your knowledge, and your wisdom. I appreciate you. We're gonna close off with that.